Why I almost switched into RevOps leadership and why I chose not to. Despite being, one of the creative drivers behind such iconic moments in time as Sell Yeah, Outbound to Inbound, and the most recent Outwit, Outlast, Outbound at the Pipeline Conference in Austin, and loving that work, like truly being the most satisfied I've been in my career in a really long time. What we are capable of is limited by our foundations. And I don't say that in, obviously, I work at Orem, right? So, I'm not saying this as a dig on Orem at all. Orem is a startup. We've been at it for a handful of years. We have built, grown, and changed, and we have flexed our operations to adjust in all of those ways. I come from a world of, enterprise hardened operations. And so when I was in the enterprise at Red Hat, I was able to do really amazing things and facilitate really amazing things across our field because our operational foundations were so strong. And I'm talking about technology, I'm talking about process, I'm talking about people, I'm talking about the nitty-gritty of how you name files and tag the metadata of content and things like that. We are in the weeds, sister. We are in the weeds. And those weeds are what enable you to do things, to do more advanced go-to-market efficiently. If they don't exist, you can't be efficient in more sophisticated go-to-market moves. So, it's something I'm very passionate about because I want to do great marketing, and this is how I've gotten myself in trouble and how I've grown my career to where I have. It's because my goal has always been to do great creative work. I have been an art major. I was an art major, right? I am an artist at my core, and I want to do creative work that is just satisfying and brilliant and makes people feel something and also make people money. The reason I'm not a professional artist is because I couldn't care less if you like my work. I can't do commissions. I've tried. I make art for me, and if you love it, I love that for you. And if you don't like it, clearly you lack taste. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. But that's why I would never be a professional artist. And I suck at teaching, so I would be a terrible art teacher. So I do something else that's creative, which is marketing. And to make money with our art, with our marketing campaigns, to keep these jobs, we have to be able to prove how our marketing activities turn into revenue, right? God, this is going to piss some people off, but I don't think a great brand marketer is going to make a great marketer if they don't understand how their brand activations turn into money. I think that you are self-limited by your lack of understanding of the money. The best career advice I have ever been given is stay close to the money. And that is what makes a business pay attention to you and take you seriously. So, yeah, that's how I got into demand generation. So being an artist getting into marketing, I mean, technically all of that was a fucking accident. I was in media planning and got into media planning by an accident. First day on the job, literally didn't know what it was. Shout out to my best friend's dad, aka my professional network, who was the head of a very elite agency in my hometown. Timing being I graduated college early, and hard work being that I did have 4 jobs in college, a few of which were in PR and media and like event stuff. So I was a non-traditional hire, but a really good choice, okay? But like getting into media was not intentional. It was divine, because that's where I learned about math and where I learned about audience research and had tools like MRI and Kantar to be able to pull reports of like these very qualitative audiences and turn them into quantitative parameters that I could go, forecast campaigns against. And it was so fucking cool. It was the coolest thing ever. I remember when I first started and you're kind of learning the ropes, you have a lot of downtime, I would just sit in Kantar or MRI, Clear Decisions, MRI, yeah. And I would think about my family members, and I would go pull profiles of my family members to see if the predictions of where they would index on certain preferences were accurate. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, MRI, Clear Decisions MRI, is a database that media planners and ad agencies use. It's very expensive to license, so you're typically only going to get access to it if you are at a certain size of business. But it's a tool for it's a survey-based tool, a database of people. It's a database that basically includes all sorts of preferences and profiles of humans. So you can get down to the zip code and like do things like white men with a GED. Like you can ask it questions like, what type of toothpaste do white men with a GED prefer? What type of television do mixed race women ages 25 to 54 prefer to watch? And because of the breadth of their data, you can pull in and you can see where people, index. And so it's like, okay, this demographic over indexes for, Crest toothpaste, or over indexes for Diet Coke, and you can even do it with psychographics too. Like they over index in believing that they are highly influential to their peer group. The most fascinating shit ever. So fascinating. I immediately, after figuring out this data existed, turned back to my philosophy degree and was like, I don't think this is ethical. I don't think what we're doing here is ethical, because I can pinpoint your preference down to a zip code level, and then I can target ads at you at a micro zip code level to influence your decision making. What? That shit's insane. But, that's neither here nor there. She wears a tinfoil hat and blocks ads. And I don't buy display anymore, so it's a lot less precise. But yeah, so I went from, I guess the story here is I went from loving the art and the creative to understanding that if I wanted to do the art and the creative, I'm going to have to be able to justify it through numbers. And so that's how I spent so much time in media planning. Then I went client side because, well, that's not necessarily the full story. There's a lot of story, but I was really interested in the larger impact of, just like the digital medium on the business, because or not even digital. When I was in media planning, I did all of the different types of media: TV, out-of-home radio, print, sponsorships, events, and digital. Digital was a big part of it for sure. But you only see what the advertising does. You don't see what everything else does. Specifically, I'm thinking about like the website or the in-store presence when I was working in the B2C space. And so I wanted to own more of that. And I got into B2B tech because of my work on the Lenovo business, headquartered in Raleigh. I got a job at Red Hat, headquartered in Raleigh as well. And this is where I started to get access to things like the website, the email platforms, the field marketing events, the sponsorships, the massive, corporate sponsorships, and the sales development process, or at Red Hat it was called the BDR process. And so I was able to see, expand from just advertising to the entire spectrum of where our message lives. And so that, ultimately is what became demand generation. And again, very much rooted in numbers and like turning the dial to try to maximize our reach and our frequency and our impact on, revenue at the end of the day. And so that was really interesting. Through doing that, I learned everything because I did it all over the world. I did it in so many different languages. I did it with millions and millions and millions of dollars with the most amazing marketing operations infrastructure. The marketing operations infrastructure, I don't know that I appreciated it as much when I was there as I have since I've moved on. Shout out to Kat Mears, shout out to Matt Webbing, shout out to our enablement team, Mary Blanks, great minds in the space. And they built a foundation so that we could make magic, and we didn't even realize the shoulders we were standing on. I knew they were brilliant, but I didn't know how brilliant until I didn't have them anymore when I moved into startup land, which was super cool because I got to build from scratch knowing like enterprise level support. And probably the hardest thing for me was being able to scale back from like, okay, Sarah, you are at a $20 million company, not a $2 billion company. You need to right size your expectations of marketing ops. And in my first startup role, I owned marketing ops too. So I was in charge of that whole kit and caboodle. That was a big lesson. Like, what do we actually need? What's the MVP here? I've had experience with every tool, with the Sixth Sense, the demand base, the Terminus, the whatevers of the world, all of them. The marketing operations budget must have been insane over at Red Hat. What are the ones that actually make an impact? And you'd be surprised how few marketing ops tools I think you actually need to do it well. What you actually need, it's not a tool. It's not a technology. And I think that this is the case for like all of SaaS. It's something that we have to acknowledge. The technology cannot solve people and process issues. And with operations specifically, it's process related. And you can only build a process as tight as you can a GTM, right? Like if the GTM strategy is tight, you can operationalize it. If the GTM strategy is a bit nebulous, like it can be in startup land, if it's changing, it's hard to have that operational rigor. But there are so many things that we can do from the start to just make it easier to change our infrastructure, to change our systems, to re-architect our data as things evolve. And so my case study of time here at Orem, it's been almost 3 years now, which is pretty wild in this startup, like the length of a career to startup. But my time here at Orem has really been about building the data foundations early on, the demand foundations early on, so that we have the freedom to do the most artistic, creative work, which is so important right now because that's what stands out. What we just did at the pipeline event, we spent a boatload of money on that event, but we didn't spend the same amount as our competition to have the biggest space in the room. We made the biggest presence through our art, and it absolutely was art. I'm done just calling it creative. It's art. It's art. What Emily and I do, and Adam and Emily and I do. So it's, yeah, like I have created the opportunity to make art for myself and for revenue and do all of that. But we're bumping into a place where our operations infrastructure, it's startup land, the things that I want to do next, the things that I want to do to like take it to the next level, I'm doing it in bits and pieces. We're doing it with the team, but it's very manual and it takes a lot of time and it's just not efficient. It doesn't scale. And if it doesn't scale, like I am practical and we can pilot, but I'm not going to set myself up for failure in terms of something not being able to scale and just being asked to work harder. This is like a really fun, like I like my job, I like my career, but it is only 30% of my identity. So I'm not really willing to give up 80% of my waking hours to it. Sorry, not sorry. So yeah, I need it to be efficient so we can unlock the next level. And so I'm like, shit, do I need to go over into RevOps right now and get that shop in order so that we can do marketing better? And doing marketing better than we're already doing it. Oh my God, everyone watch out. It would be insane. But I made the choice not to. And I'm kind of processing this all in real time because it's something that's come up for me this week, but I'm not going to. And here's why. The part of me that always wants to fix the other problems is related to my childhood wounding. What isn't related to our childhood wounding, am I right? But in all seriousness, it is a trauma response, and it is a defense mechanism and a trauma response that has served me insanely well and also exhausted the shit out of me. And I deserve to do something I enjoy, right? Like that is a thing that I am learning now. I don't exist just to solve problems. I don't exist just to grow and be more. I exist to experience pleasure in this lifetime and to give others permission to do the same thing. By increasing my own capacity for joy and pleasure, I give others permission to do the same thing. And I think when we are all living in a place of joy, or at least just a place where things feel good, we work better together. We do better work. And I don't just mean at our, jobs that are capitalist in nature. I mean, in the larger part of, being a person who's driving in traffic and not acting like an asshole. People who are willing to vote in elections in ways that may serve others more than it, quote unquote, serves themselves on paper. Smiling at people in the grocery store. It's just a happier society if we're all happier people. And yeah, it takes some Prozac to make that happen, but also change how your life is structured. So I thought to myself, do I want to step into this next level of hardness, this next level of like less joy to free up my ability to do more joyful stuff down the line? And for me personally, for where I'm at right now in terms of my whole self, my whole life, the answer is no. I love what I'm doing. I love the team I've created. I love the team that I've been able to be a part of. And the work that we're doing is just getting better and better. And so, yes, could I go solve another problem so that that work could get exponentially better? Absolutely. And maybe if I was in a different stage of my life as a whole person, I would choose that, because it's also a huge career opportunity. Imagine if I want to be a CRO one day, what's the best thing you could do? You should probably get out of marketing and figure out how to make your way into revenue operations and maybe sales leadership so that you're a full package. That is the play. That is the play to become the CRO. But I don't want to do that today. Today, I want to do marketing, and I want to do good marketing, and I want to have an impact on all the other parts of the organization, but it's the marketing, y'all. I'm loving it, and I choose to do something I love right now in this part of my life. In the professional part of my life, I'm choosing joy because I'm dealing with hard in a lot of other places, and it is just so cool to be able to make these types of decisions. And that, my friends, is why you should be in therapy, because therapy makes you be able to make decisions like this. Because if I hadn't done all the work that I've done, I would immediately be fighting to get into leadership on the RevOps side of the world. But that's not what I actually want. That's not aligned with my values right now. So this was very vulnerable. Didn't mean to record a whole, personal career breakdown and how I'm navigating big decisions in my life in real time, podcast, not podcast, on my way back from daycare drop-off. But that's exactly what I did. And do I publish it? Well, if you're listening to this, I guess I just decided to YOLO it. And if you listened all the way to the end, you're so kind. DM me and tell me why. Because this feels very disorganized and very vulnerable. And that's probably why I got to send it. Yeah. Embrace the discomfort, y'all. Have a great day. Be the change you want to see in the world, and look for some opportunities to grab a hold of joy. You deserve it. Lilas.